Joe Nanowski here for Daystar Sports. As you can see, we are in the ring. We are in Rockwall, Texas, at the Christian Wrestling Federation. I'm here with the man, the $1 Million Man, Mr. Ted DiBiase. Welcome, Ted.
Good to be here with Joe.
Thank you. So, can you make me a star in the wrestling ring?
Well, everybody's got a price, but I don't know if we can. It might take a lot of money. No. I'm kidding.
I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to learn.
Okay.
Maybe you got some tips for us.
Let's go wrestling 101.
Wrestling 101.
I mean the basics are number one. Professional wrestling is two things. It's sports, and it's entertainment.
Okay.
To be a good wrestler, a good professional wrestler, you have to be both a good athlete and you have to be a good entertainer. So you have to be an athlete and an actor.
Okay, I may have a little bit of that in me.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, there's hope for me.
But the basics, number one, and we don't have time to do that in a show, but
sure.
But number one is today we get our athletes in tip-top shape. I mean, there's a lot of guys that they say, man, I want to be a wrestler, you know, and they have this idea, well, wrestling's not a real competition, so it can't be all that bad. The truth is, it's like going to boot camp training. If you go to a legitimate wrestling school that teaches it the right way, they're gonna have you puking in a bucket before it's all over to see if you really want to stay.
All right, Ted, you're the $1 Million Man. You had $1 million moves, but I need to know some basic moves. I know we got some excellent athletes here. Maybe you could talk us through some of the basic wrestling moves these guys can demonstrate for us.
Yeah, we can do that. We call it chain wrestling.
Sounds great.
Sound good? Okay,
yeah. All
let's do it.
Come on. Yeah, let's get out of the way.
Joe, do you think you're ready to try any of that?
I'm ready to go, Ted.
Yeah?
Yeah. Maybe not right just now, but I am in top physical condition. Lethal weapons.
But again,
Loaded.
That's a small demonstration of just the basics.
Yeah, that was tremendous.
Now,
these guys are tremendous athletes. I mean, it's acrobatic work. It's like gymnasts. It's strength. It's agility. It's flexibility. And stamina that they have to do that level of athleticism.
Right, and to come out here and do it for 15 or 20 minutes too, and then because then it gets even. We don't have the room or maybe the height to do that in this ring, but some of the stuff, I mean, like like when they have ladder matches and you see guys taking bumps over the top rope and going through tables, and you know, you got to really know what you're doing to do stuff like that.
So I imagine you took a few hits in your day.
Oh yeah, I mean, my knees are shot and my hips are going, and you know, I sleep in a recliner, not a bed anymore. Everything has a price, including wrestling.
All right, Ted. Well, now you're on God's team. Now you're doing things the right way. You've succeeded on a secular level. How has God taken your skills as an athlete and as a wrestler? How has He taken and molded those into something that you can now use to honor God and to bring help and healing to the world?
Well, you know, when Jesus told the disciples, He said, I'm going to make you fishers of men. Think about that for a minute. Every good fisherman knows this. When you go fishing, you got to have bait. And there's all kinds of fish in the sea. And for all those different kind of fish, there's different kinds of bait. And basically what I've done is I've taken wrestling and I've used it as a form of bait to draw people to something that they recognize in the secular world, professional wrestling, and use that as a way to draw them in, give them what they're used to, give them a good, clean wrestling show, but then to segue that wrestling show into a presentation of the gospel. And therefore, using the gifts and the talents that I have and that God has given me, and using them ultimately to glorify Him. And you might be saying, okay.
There's got to be some church folks that probably frown on this or probably wonder, Ted, how can you use wrestling? How can you use this to, you know, does that honor God? And then you would say.
Well, I would say this, you know, Jesus was ostracized by the religious of His day. The Pharisees and the Sadducees said, you know, you're going out and you're hanging around with the prostitutes and the tax collectors, you know. And Jesus said, I came to save the sick. We cannot reach the lost in the world by sitting in church praying for them. We have to be amongst them.
Sure.
And the way I do that is I do just that. I take this ring and I put it up in a church or in a church gym or somewhere, and I give them a wrestling show. And I go, how do you get from wrestling to the gospel? Well, I might have Greg the Hammer Valentine on hand, another guy who got saved, or the Stinger. And then I wrap it all up by saying this. You've seen all these guys get up here and say, I've had everything the world had to offer and found it empty. And the only thing that brought me peace in my life was when I gave my life to Jesus Christ. And there you have presented the gospel in a very real way, and guys being very transparent. And I'm going to tell you, man, and the guys that wrestle in this organization can tell you, they see it touch lives every week.
Well, Ted, I so appreciate you being here today and sharing some wrestling tips with us, but really some tips for life, for living. If you would, Ted, take just a minute, look into this camera, and say something to somebody watching
Sure.
who needs some help and encouragement today.
Sure, Joe. You know, God dramatically changed my life. I was at the top of my game. I had everything that I hoped or dreamed for. I had more than I hoped and dreamed for. And in the midst of that, I came to a place of emptiness where I was filling the emptiness with drugs and alcohol. I was filling it by being unfaithful to my wife. And no matter what you have, you know, we were born with this God-sized hole. And, you know, there's a proverb that says, as a dog returns to his vomit, so the fool returns to his folly, which means that we'll continue to go back and make the very same mistakes in our life over and over until either until it kills us and sends us to hell, or until we realize that the only thing that's going to fill that void is Jesus Christ. And the day that I gave my life and my heart to Jesus is the day that my life was changed dramatically and irreversibly and forever. And I don't care what you've been through. I don't care how many times you failed. I don't care how bad you are or how bad you think you are or how miserably you have failed. There's a God who loves you, and there's a God who right now, if you will just turn to him and confess from your heart your sins, ask for his forgiveness, ask him to come into your life, he will. And Jesus said, I stand at the door and knock. If you'll just open the door and let him in, he'll come in. And just like he changed my life, he'll change yours.
Well, you know, I know you've got some signature moves. I think the one you just gave us was your best move. I think God gave you an eternal signature move. But let's go back back in time, back in the day. Maybe, I think I'm ready for you to put one on me.
Oh, okay. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hear just what I'm going to do.
Easy. These are registered with the government.
Just drop your arm there.
Okay.
Okay. Now I'm gonna when I sense this thing in, when you feel it,
right,
you let me know. Okay.
Right.
That's called the $1 Million Dream. It's basically,
okay,
and it's called the $1 Million Dream for a good reason. And,
okay.
and you'll know that in a minute. So let me know as soon as you feel it.
Okay.
Thanks, Joe. Hey, everybody. This is Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man. Keep watching Daystar Sports. Somebody want to wake him up?